So just. Are you all ready? Good evening. Good evening. I'm going to call to order the January 6th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. I am going to act as the temporary chair and secretary up until we elect the board chair. So I'm going to call to order. I'll do the roll call. Mr. Altieri? Here. Ms. Roberts Lightcap?
Here.
Mr. Russo?
Here.
Ms. Chanlis?
Here.
Mr. San Francisco?
Here.
If we can, let's take a moment of silence. And also we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, but we'll do first a moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Roberts Lightcap, a second by Mr. Altieri. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion for election of your chair?
I'd like to make a motion to select Leonard Altieri as chair.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Roberts Lightcap, second by Mr. San Francisco. Is there any other motions for chair? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Mr. Altieri, I turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nease, and we'll move down to 8.2, election of the vice chair. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Supervisor Tina Roberts Lightcap.
I'll second that.
Motion was made and seconded. Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. So do have something that we would like to read. First off, thank you to our colleagues on
Yes.
the honor of serving in this role again for the 2025 term. We look forward to working with the board, the administration, and staff to continue to move Newtown Township forward. Over the past year, we've achieved great strides here in Newtown Township. Among the highlights, and there are many, are just a few. We continue to hold our AAA bond rating from Moody's, one of only 2 municipalities in this county and only a handful in this Commonwealth. This achievement is a testament to our conservative monetary practices, which have allowed us to invest in our police, public works, parks, trails, and library system. Focusing on our environmental initiatives, we planted approximately 180 trees from Media Line Road to the corporate campus. We redesigned St. Albans Circle to make it more pedestrian friendly and welcoming for all. Allocated an estimated $1.4 million towards updating and expanding the stormwater management system in neighborhoods where stormwater management systems did not previously exist. Adopted a stronger, more environmentally friendly stormwater ordinance, which, among other improvements, increased riparian buffers from 50 to 100 feet. Implemented traffic calming measures in multiple neighborhoods to enhance safety and livability. We continued our steadfast support of the Newtown Township Police Department, ensuring they had the tools and resources needed to maintain the dual accreditation from the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission and the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. These accreditations underscore their excellence and dedication to our community. And again, we are only one of maybe a few in the nation to have both of those accreditations. We purchased a new rescue truck for the Newtown Square Fire Company, further enhancing our emergency response capabilities. demonstrated our commitment to preserving historic resources by taking ownership of the historic John West Square Tavern. This board remains committed to ensuring that Newtown Township is a premier community, a place where residents want to stay here and where others aspire to live. As we reflect on these accomplishments, we are proud of the progress that we've made together. And looking forward to 2025, we are excited about the opportunities before us to build on this foundation. This board's priorities include refining our zoning code to ensure it remains current and continues to support the protection and growth of our township, continuing to further implement our comprehensive plan and update that comprehensive plan that reflects our shared vision for Newtown Township's future, delivering an official township map to provide clear, accessible guidance for planning and development efforts. As this board embarks on these initiatives, we are confident that working collaboratively with our administration, staff, and community stakeholders, we will continue to make Newtown Township a great place to live, work, and raise a family. And on behalf of Tina and I and the rest of the board, we thank you for your trust as we continue to move Newtown Township forward. I'll now move down to section 9 for public comment for agenda items only. If there are any residents or taxpayers, residents and taxpayers, who have any public comment that they'd like to provide for agenda item, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record. I will note that if you are here to provide public comment with regards to the application of Aronimink Golf Course, I'm going to ask that all public comment be held until after their presentation is complete. Any other public comment for agenda items? Great. Seeing none, we'll move down to minutes 10.1. Can I get a motion approving the minutes from the December 9th, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion?
I'm going to abstain because I was not in attendance for that meeting.
Perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carries 4-0 with one abstention. 10.2, can I get a motion approving the minutes from the December 30th, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Li, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any, Supervisor Chanlis, is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll move down to section 11, appointments to boards and commissions. 11, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these and vote on them as one if the board has no objection to that. Is that fine?
So at the very end.
We'll do a motion for all of them at the end, but 11.1 supervisor, and what we'll do is we'll call on the liaison who conducted the interviews for these various appointments. So for Planning Commission, Supervisor Roberts Li.
1 4-year, I'd like to make a motion for 1 4-year term expiring 12/31/2028. Paul Winterhalter.
Zoning Hearing Board, Supervisor Roberts Li.
1 5-year term expiring 12/31/2029. Nick Altieri.
11.3 Zoning Hearing Board Alternate, Supervisor Roberts Li.
1 3-year term expiring 12/31/2027. Michael Gutkin.
11.4 Municipal Authority, Supervisor San Francisco.
1 5-year term expiring 12/31/2029, Maria Kane.
11.5 Environmental Advisory Council would be Supervisor Russo, but I'll do it on his behalf. 1 3-year term expiring 12/31/2027 will be Janet Cravanis. 1 3-year term expiring 12/31/2027 will be David Galuch. 11.6 Parks and Recreation Board, Supervisor San Francisco.
1 5-year term expiring 12/31/2029, Wade Pollock.
11.7 Marple Newtown Leisure Services, that's Supervisor Chanlis.
Yep, 1 3-year term, that expiring December 31st, 2026.
7.
No, that's not right. 2027. John McDevitt.
11.8 Trails and Greenways, Supervisor San Francisco.
1 4-year term expiring 12/31/2028, Bethany Ducia. And 1 4-year term expiring 12/31/2028, John Custer.
Shade Tree Commission, 11.9 would be Supervisor Russo. 1 5-year term expiring 12/31/2029 is Rob Vanicola. 11.10 Historic Preservation Commission, Supervisor Chanlis.
A 1 4-year term expiring 12/31/28. Chris Wilson.
11.11 Finance Committee, that will remain open for now. 11.12 Bartram Bridge, Supervisor Russo is the liaison. One 2-year term expiring 12/31/2026 is Derek Osner. 11.13 Library Board, we are going to be conducting interviews for those positions. We were just given the names from the Library Board, so we're going to hold that open. 11.14 Vacancy Board, 1 2-year term expiring 12/31/2026 will be John McDevitt. 11.15 Delegate to PSATs, which stands for Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, will be Stephen Nease. 11.16 Representative to the CDCA will remain open. 11.17 Representative to the Council of Governments will be Stephen Nease. Is there a motion for 11.1 to 11.17?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Li, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move down to section 12, board liaisons. 12.1, police will be Supervisor Chanlis. 12.2, non-uniform personnel will be Supervisor Chanlis. Police Pension Board and non-uniform pension board will be myself. Planning Commission will be Supervisor Roberts Li. Zoning Hearing Board will be Supervisor Roberts Li. Environmental Advisory Council will be Supervisor Russo. Parks and Recreation Board will be Supervisor San Francisco. Trails and Greenways Committee will be Supervisor San Francisco. Shade Tree Commission, Supervisor Russo. Historic Preservation Commission, Supervisor Chanlis. Municipal Authority, Supervisor San Francisco. Finance Committee will be Supervisor San Francisco and Supervisor Roberts Li. Bartram Bridge Joint Commission, Supervisor Russo. Leisure Services, Supervisor Chanlis. Library will be Supervisor Russo. Marple Newtown School District will be me. And the Finance and, Fire Department and Emergency Medical Services will be me as well. Can I get a motion for, well, we'll do it anyways, a motion. Can I get a motion for 12.1 to 12.17?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? And I should note for the record, all these liaison positions are the same ones that were in 2024 as well, so they haven't changed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Section 13, Township Officials. Township Solicitor, Richard C. Sikora Esquire, Hi Schwartz. Township Conflict Counsel, Raphael Pupio. Township Engineer, Panoni, Eric P. Johnson, Professional Engineer. Alternate/Conflict Engineer, Catania Engineering Associates Incorporated, Charles J. Catania Jr. Township Manager, Secretary Treasurer, Stephen Nease. Chief Administrative Officer of the Pension Funds, Stephen Nease. Assistant Secretary, Suzanne Valanen. Assistant Treasurer, Paul San Francisco. Right to Know Officer, Suzanne Valanen. Chief of Police, Christopher Lunn. Roadmaster, George Sharitz. Zoning Officer, Director of Codes, Building Code Official, Andrew Rezchek. Assistant Zoning Officer, Stephen Nease. Building Code Official/Zoning Officer, Commonwealth Code. Fire Marshal, Carl Keene. Assistant to the Fire Marshal, Richard Heffernan. Sewage Enforcement Officer, Herbert E. McCumbee Jr., Professional Engineer, Consulting Engineers, and Surveyors Incorporated. Electrical Inspector, Commonwealth Code, and United Electrical Inspectors. Emergency Management Coordinator, Dr. Gene Bale. Assistant Emergency Management Coordinator, Stephen Nease. Animal Warden, Alan Strickler. Animal Shelter, Brandywine Veterinary Hospital. Township Arborist, John Rockwell Hosbach Jr., RCA. Can I get a motion for 13.1 to 13.23?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Li. Is there any board discussion? Bye. Oh,
He's okay.
yeah, I think you're fine.
You're not, you're a piece of the whole pie, so.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. And I should note too, the Assistant Treasurer position of Supervisor San Francisco is not coming with any compensation. It's just we need another signatory on the check. I'm going to go a little bit out of order just real quick because the police are back there and I want to get them out. I told them that I would. We're going to move down to section 18, new business, 18.5. Consider approving the 5-year contract agreement between the township and the Delaware County Fraternal Order of Police on behalf of the Newtown Township Police Officers.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor, what is their name again? San Francisco. Seconded by Supervisor Roberts Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? I do have a statement that I will be reading. Yeah, but I wrote on mine, so hold on. So Newtown Township is pleased to announce a successful negotiation of a new 5-year contract agreement that will run from 2025 through 2029. This agreement represents a significant step forward for both the community and the dedicated officers who serve it, ensuring a highly competitive compensation and benefits package that promotes recruitment, retention, and the continued excellence of the police force. This new labor agreement includes a series of salary adjustments and benefit enhancements designed to support the growth and well-being of both our current officers and our future recruits. Key provisions of the contract include salary adjustments to compete with and remain competitive with surrounding municipalities and cost of living adjustments per year. Modified salary scale for new hires to attract and retain top talent. Differential pay for traffic safety officers, school resource officers, and detectives second class. Medical health savings plan contribution adjustments for enhanced coverage. Enhanced drop deferred retirement option plan coverage to support officers planning for retirement. Additional paid holiday time off and new festive holiday considerations to improve work-life balance. Parental leave provisions to support officers with growing families, and gym membership reimbursements to promote health and fitness for our officers. I also want to thank our Township Manager, Steve Nease, Supervisor Chanlis, and our Labor Council who worked on this, obviously the entire board as well, for their input and guidance, and also the members of the FOP, specifically Sergeant Strathy and the rest of his negotiating team for coming to this agreement. With that being said, well, I don't know if you want to say anything now. And yeah.
So I'm here tonight to thank all of you on behalf of the officers represented by the Newtown Township Police Department Bargaining Unit. We want to express our sincere gratitude to the Board of Supervisors for approving the terms of our contract for 2025 through 2029. Your decision reflects a genuine commitment to support the officers that have the privilege of serving Newtown Township. The process of contract negotiations can be challenging, but the spirit of cooperation and mutual respect demonstrated throughout these discussions underscores the partnership that we have. We deeply appreciate your recognition of the work we do and the trust you place in us. The contract will enable us to continue to provide the high standard of service that our residents expect and deserve, while ensuring our officers are properly supported in their vital roles. Your approval of this agreement represents an investment not only in the well-being of our officers, but also in the continued safety and security of Newtown Township. Thank you again for your leadership, dedication, and commitment to our department and the community that we proudly serve. We look forward to making Newtown Township an even better place to live and work. We spoke earlier, but obviously very thankful that we have come to an agreement. We thank all of the Board of Supervisors, especially you, Mr. Altieri, and Supervisor Chanlis, and Mr. Nease, for all the time that we spent at the table, some long nights, and I know a lot of work went into it. We're all glad that we're able to come to an agreement in the end, and we're very happy with it. So just wanted to make sure we publicly recognized the work that went into it.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss Mr. Shupin.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks again. Yeah. Thank you.
So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations again, and thank you very much, Sergeant Strathy, and to the rest of your team. Also going to jump back up to note for the record in executive session, Supervisor Roberts Li just reminded me, or I'd be lost.
Yeah.
That we did meet in executive session at 6:15 this evening. We did discuss 3 litigation matters related to zoning hearing cases: 4108 Battles Lane, 307 First Avenue, 4224 Westchester Pike. We also discussed two personnel matters. One was the collective bargaining agreement, the update on the contract, which obviously we just approved this evening. And then two were appointments to various boards, commissions, and also the township officials.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to also make note that you were in executive session on December the 30th, immediately after the meeting the special meeting that you held to have contract negotiation discussions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neese. Okay, now we'll get back to our regular scheduled programming here. Section 14.1, report from the township manager. Mr. Neese.
Yeah, so just a couple quick things. The first one that's not on the agenda, just make note that our public works team has been out all day helping to make sure our roads are safe. And last I checked, they looked in pretty good shape. I will tell you that I think we have a snow squall coming in actually as we're having this meeting, and the team is back out there. So George is not here to talk about recycling. I am. And so I want to just give you kind of a brief update. We have changed. I think if you've been kind of following our meetings, you probably know we've changed recycling contractors. And that was actually done, I think, actually back in September, October timeframe. But we had the change kind of happen. And fortunately, tonight with us is Kyle Levinger, the division manager of Whitetail, who is the new contractor for our recycling. In your mailboxes, I think most of you, kind of those I've talked to, probably either Thursday or Friday, maybe even Saturday, received the update of how we'll be doing collection. If you remember, prior to the last 4 years, I believe it was, we were being collected 1 day a week. And it was every other week, depending on what region you were in the township. We've gone back to that versus 3 days in a week. So we had gone from 6 zones down to 2 zones again. And I want you to look at the map that was sent out. If you go to the Whitetail website, it's very responsive. You can actually click on your address and know which zone you are. I encourage you to do so. However, there's a few changes that have happened. Obviously, at the new year, not everybody had received the notice in time to know what was going on. So Whitetail has graciously agreed to actually do a complete collection this Thursday. Originally, it was going to be Wednesday, which will be the normal day, but because of the weather today, it's going to be on Thursday of this week. I will ask you to make note of that and be aware of that. The only other thing that I wanted to say about it, just to make sure that everybody is kind of aware of what's going on, you actually are going to have 26 pickups instead of 24. It used to be you were like the first and the third, or the second and the fourth. It will be every other week. And Kyle, I don't know if there's any, is he still here? Oh, yeah, there he is. If you want to come forward and give any other comments that you would like to make, but just wanted to get that out.
No, thanks for having me. I think you covered it pretty well. We will be in Thursday. We'll send extra trucks in and we will collect the whole township. Unfortunately, the post office let us down. We had those things in the mail on the 20th. With the holidays and everything, they just didn't get out to the residents on time. So for that, we apologize. But we will, there was some miscommunication last week, but we were here, just the residents didn't have the stuff out. But we will be back on Thursday. Again, we wanted it to be Wednesday, but given the way today went, we have to push a day. So we'll be here on Thursday. We'll collect the whole town. And then we will be back on the 15th, and we will collect zone 2, which is everything, depending on how you look at it, northeast of Route 3. And then we will be back on the 22nd to collect zone 1. And then so on from there, every other week.
Any?
Steve, did you also address how we are going to communicate that to those
Sure.
elderly individuals who don't necessarily use our, email blasts and social media?
Yeah, so we are Obviously, the mail piece went out to everybody, but because of the special pickup on Thursday, we're trying to work with the county to do what they call a Delco alert, which is a reverse 911 call. So all of those that have landlines, we would notify them. Also, if you've registered with Delco alert, they'll go ahead and send it out as well, hopefully. We were hoping to have an answer for that, but the county closed today with the snow, so we never got 100% confirmation, but we're hoping that happens tomorrow so that everybody will know that the collection is on Thursday.
All right, perfect. Any other report, Mr. Neese?
That's the main things I had. Everything else is on the agenda.
Perfect. We'll move down to section 15.1 bills. I've reviewed the bills and I'll make a motion to approve the bills on 2024 check register A dated January 6, 2025, totaling $171,141.70. Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. 15.2, I have reviewed the bills and I'll make a motion to approve the bills on check register 2025, check register A dated January 6, 2025, totaling $33,813.41.
Second.
Motion is made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. 16, developers release 16.1. Can I get a motion approving escrow release number 1, final totaling $1,314,878.80 to Aronimink Golf Club located at 2600 St. David's Road for completed golf club learning center with conditions as approved by the township engineer.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, and we'll get down to section 17, land development approval. Mr. D'Amico, the floor is yours, sir. Actually, before you start talking, Mr. D'Amico, I want to turn it over to our solicitor, Mr. Secor, if you want to just frame this for those who are in the audience and also for those who are watching online. I know there seems to be some confusion over what this actually is, and I think you can shed some
So
light.
this was I guess the PGA has selected Aronimink for its championship in 2026. And there's a number of changes, mostly temporary, some supporting changes that would be permanent at the golf course. And so this came in as an inquiry from Aronimink Golf Club regarding a ENS permit, moving earth around, taking down trees, putting in temporary parking lots, and some temporary structures. But the size and the scope of the project just seemed so much more than just ENS. So what the township requested and Aronimink agreed was to couch this in terms of a land development waiver. So there's no permanent structures going in. There's no permanent buildings or anything of that nature. But there's going to be some permanent impacts. There's a significant number of trees that are going to come down. There's some earth that would be moved to form temporary parking lots, and there are retention basins and stormwater management facilities. And so through that process, what the township's goal was and what has occurred is absolutely every review process that would ordinarily occur in the land development process has occurred. So every environmental review, every board, every planning commission, every professional engineer, arborists, fire marshal, everything as if it was a land development plan has been done to make sure that all the changes are compliant with our code and that the township is protected by something of this scale and magnitude. Things that would ordinarily be handled in a land development context that we're not making the applicant go through, for instance, is landscaping, bushes in front of structures. We have code requirements that say if you're going to have a structure put in, you have to have landscaping in front of that structure, bushes, mulch. And these are temporary structures that are being removed in a year. So we're stopping that the review in terms of things that would be permanent associated with land development that really aren't important to the township in the context of this project, so that everybody could focus on the things that matter the most, which is environment, stormwater management. And that's what everybody's focused on. So there has been some comments that the township's received, calls and writings with this notion that the review has somehow been truncated with respect to environmental impacts, and that's just not the case. There's no further review that would have occurred if this was any other context than what was done here. And did I say anything incorrect? That's great. Okay. So what is here tonight is Mr. D'Amico, on behalf of Aronimink, he's going to lead through a presentation related to this waiver process and what is actually happening so that you have a good understanding of it. You approve this waiver and they could go on. You deny the waiver, they can't go on. You make modifications to what they're requesting, and that's a discussion that we would have to have with them.
Floor is yours, Mr. D'Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, may it please the board, my name is Mark D'Amico. I'm an attorney in media and also privileged to be a member of Aronimink Golf Club. Here representing Aronimink this evening, and with me is Neil Kamens, who's the project civil engineer from Chester Valley Engineers. We have two past presidents, Bill Berry and Dave Penske here, the general manager of Aronimink Golf Club, Andrew Whitelaw, Ryan Ogle of the PGA is back there as well, and John Goslin, who is the green superintendent. So Aronimink is approximately 300 acres, zoned R1. The golf course opened in 1928, so nearly 100 years ago, which predates the township zoning ordinance. As a reminder, the Board of Supervisors approved the Phase 1 plans at a meeting in July 22, which included a golf performance center and a renovation of the golf patio. And then in the summer of 23, the Township Supervisors approved another Phase 2 land development plan that includes the renovation of the pool and what we call the Belmont building, and also updates to the racket center. So all that work is either complete or ongoing, and notably all of that work, both those plans, the plans were prepared by Chester Valley, and that work consisted of significant stormwater management, which has been installed or is being installed as we speak. So tonight we're here to discuss the plan for the proposed broadcast compound, as Mr. Sikora was just saying, by way of brief history, and I'll try not to repeat what Rich said. It started back in June. We met with township officials. The PGA Championship, the township probably knows that there's been other pretty significant golf tournaments that have been held at Aronimink over the last 10 or 12 years, but nothing compares in the scope to the PGA Championship, which is a major tournament. The only other major tournament in the United States is the U.S. Open that moves around. So the PGA, U.S. Open move around. The Masters is held at the same spot, and the British Open is held in Britain. So this is a relatively unique opportunity, and the club is very proud to host this championship. A tournament of this scope and size would typically be held on a property that is much larger, 500, 600 acres, although Aronimink is 300 acres, which is a pretty big piece of property. It's not large enough and we do not have the adequate open space to house all of the temporary structures that need to be here. Notably, we need this 10 acres of land that is not otherwise cleared for this broadcast compound, meaning that there will be tractor trailer trailers, dozens of them that will be here to broadcast the tournament throughout the world. So that is unique. And again, the few open spaces that Aronimink does have currently will be used for other purposes, including a large tent for the retail sales, and we need areas for transportation, drop off of buses, etc. So again, unfortunately, there's no other alternative but to clear this area. So when we met with the township and explained all of this and explained that there would be these stormwater structures that we would need, even though the gravel was temporary, the township asked us if we would consider leaving those structures. So, and Aronimink agreed to do that. We then submitted what we thought would be a grading plan back in September. That plan was reviewed by the township engineer. At that point, as Rich said, based on the scope of it, we were asked to submit this as a full land development plan and then ask for a waiver. That triggered a notice to all the immediate residents, and it triggered us appearing at public meetings like this one so that the residents would have a full knowledge and an opportunity to express their comments and opinions. And again, Aronimink agreed to do that. We submitted a land development application in November. Township sent notices out, and obviously it's a very public process, and the township residents are well aware of what is going on. We did have reviews, including the township arborist, the township engineer. We appeared before your planning commission in November and received a recommendation of approval. And again, technically, it's a recommendation to the board that the planning commission made that the supervisors agree to grant a waiver of land development. But the waiver of land development is conditioned on Aronimink agreeing to and adhering to all the township engineer review comments, all the township arborist comments, obtaining an NPDES permit, which we're in the process of doing, obtaining a PennDOT highway occupancy permit on a temporary basis, which we have done, and I could go on and on. But essentially, this is exactly the same level of scrutiny as if it was a land development application. Just like a land development application was also reviewed by the Delaware County Planning Commission at its November meeting, and they recommended approval. So a couple of comments about the trees. The Township Arborist, the Township Planning Commission suggested an area near St. David's Road of an acre or more that we could reforest. So the original version of the plan does have a significant number of buffer planting, 60-something.
Can I ask you a question? I don't
Yes.
mean to cut you off in your
Sure.
train of thought. Are you, and this overview is great, and it's been extremely helpful, and I think it's informative for everyone. Are you also going to be showing all this on, do you have a presentation with? the
Yes.
plan? Okay, all right, perfect.
Yep,
Just wanted to make
Yep.
sure.
I'll just set
No,
it up.
You're
but
doing great. It's informative.
So again, Township Arborist, the Planning Commission suggested that in addition to the buffer plantings that were shown on the initial set of plans along St. David's, could we pick an area along there of an acre or more and reforest it? We have agreed to do that, and the revised plans show that, and Mr. Kamens will review that with you momentarily. Township Arborist also suggested that perhaps a complete inventory of the trees be performed. The initial calculations in terms of tree replacement were based on a sampling, which is a recognized, totally legitimate way of doing it. But in response to that comment, the club retained Glenn Riggs, who's a certified arborist who counted each and every tree in the area of disturbance. So again, of approximately 10 acres. There are approximately 229 healthy trees being removed. There are about 417 trees total, but that includes about 144 ash trees and about 44 trees dead or dying. So again, about 229 healthy trees. Based on the calculations in the township ordinances, we need to replace about 638 trees. The way that works is based on the caliper the diameter of the tree. The larger the tree, the more trees you have to replace. So for example, a 30-inch tree, you have to replace that with 6 trees. So that's how you get to about 638 trees to be replaced. So we believe that the plans, which have been now resubmitted a couple times, have adequately addressed all of the comments of the township officials, or excuse me, the township consultants. As I mentioned, the grading plan will also require a county NPDES approval, and we've made an application there. Just a little bit of background in terms of Aronimink. So again, I mentioned 300 acres. with all of the tennis courts and the clubhouse, the golf learning center, the golf patio, this property is still not more than 95% open space. So this is obviously a valuable open space for that serves the thriving wildlife population. We have streams, ponds, native areas, mature woodlands. Even with the removal of the woodlands we're talking about here, we've got 60, 70 acres of land immediately contiguous to this area that it will remain wooded, as well as all the other hundreds of trees that are in and around the golf course and the golf maintenance facility and the clubhouse. So finally, I would just mention that Aronimink Golf Club is a certified Audubon cooperative sanctuary, which is requires a rigorous review to be certified. So not a lot of golf clubs in the United States are Audubon certified, but Aronimink, we are proud to say it. So, Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, we've got Neil here, so he's got the plans and he'll give you a brief overview of those. Again, emphasizing the tree replacement and the stormwater.
Mr. D'Amico, before Neil gets up and speaks, I just want to flesh out the number again with the trees, just so I can have an understanding here.
Sure.
So of the total amount of trees that are coming down, did I hear you say that not only, but 417 trees are coming down, correct?
417 trees is the total number of trees.
Total number of trees that are coming down on the full 10 acres.
That is correct.
Of that, 229 are considered healthy. 144 are ash trees.
Correct.
And then is it 44 from that 144 are dead and dying, or is it an additional category of 44 that are dead and dying?
Yeah, so of the 417 trees, 144 are ash. So by definition, they have the emerald ash borer, they are dead or dying. And they are not to be counted. It's not required by your ordinance.
Okay. And you guys are replacing, per the ordinance, 638 trees.
Right. So if you take those 229 trees, and then there's a grid that the Chester Valley created based on the caliper diameter of each tree. There's 2 if it's a certain, and then you have 3 replacement trees if you reach a certain diameter, on up to 30 if it's over 30 or more in diameter. If you're taking down a tree of that size, you need to replace it with 6 trees.
Okay. Was this always the same number, even after because I know the plans were adjusted a little bit. I know that there was the conversation in the community was 900 trees, 900 trees.
900 trees is, I don't know where that came from. It didn't come from either the first set of the plans or the second. But I will say that the number of replacement trees based on the initial filing was 836. So it's somewhere near 900, but that was replacement trees. There was never any, there's nothing remotely truthful about removing 900 trees.
Okay. And I'm going to get into this probably because we have Mr. Hosbach here, who is our arborist. And is your arborist here as well? The individual who did this or no?
He is not.
Okay, that's fine.
But Mr. Gosselin is here.
Okay, all right. So I'll wait until we get down to that just to flesh out a few more questions, but you can continue.
Okay, thanks, Neil.
And Neil, the one thing I just want to remind you is I think that there's a good contingent of individuals watching this online. So, just make sure you're as clear as you're presenting it to us as you are to them.
I will present as if it's a hearing and I have to create a written record.
I like that.
Would you mind opening that last document, the one that says today's date and thank you. I'm Neil Kamens with Chester Valley Engineers. We did the site engineering for this. While that opens up, just one thing that kind of helped at the Planning Commission to understand. What we're proposing and what the plans show is we're building 2 gravel areas. There's no buildings, there's no trailers, there's no anything. Those areas will then have these trailers that come in like a tractor trailer. There may be some modular buildings. The gravel will be there sometime this year through the end of the tournament in 2026. The actual structures, temporary structures, trailers will almost all be there for a week or 2. There'll be a few that come sooner, but most of it will remain empty. They'll then be there shortly after the tournament is over. All those trailers, modular buildings and stuff will leave. And not long after that, the gravel will be removed. but the stormwater management systems that will be constructed will remain. The gravel areas will be turned mostly into meadow, and some areas will be replanted with trees, which I'll point out on the plan.
Got it. I do just want to note for the minutes, just real quick, at 7:56, Supervisor Russo had to jump. He's a client call, so he's going to be off this call. Or Mr. Kamen.
Pan down a little so the colored area shows up all the way perfect. So this shows you the entire club remote. And then the area that's colored is the area we're talking about. So everything that's colored in there on green is part of the 10.5 acres that'll be cleared. The gray area is the temporary gravel. A little bit of that is actually pavement where it's a little steeper and we think it's better to hold up, but most of that's all gravel. If you go to the next page, please. This is just zoomed in on the area we're talking about. So again, the green area, and the outline of that is the area that's going to be cleared. The gray areas are the gravel and there's like a driveway connecting the two gray areas. That's because there are different elevations, different levels. And that driveway is going to be paved just because it's steeper to prevent having any problems. There are 3 stormwater systems. There is the one at the far right of the green area that you see, where there's a lot of lines around it. Those are the contours. These are surface basins. So that's going to be a big constructed basin. There's one above that to the upper right, in the middle of the page. That's a smaller basin. And then there's a very small one up on the upper left at St. David's Road. That is because some of the water goes towards St. David's Road, an existing pipe under the road in the other side of the street. The blue lines on the right are the existing channels. There are wetlands around them. And the colored items that look mostly pink, some look a little green, both around some of the wetlands and then at the upper part of the page, those are buffer plantings that will be planted when the gravel is, or shortly thereafter. So those are actually trees that we're proposing to plant at this time specifically.
The buffer plantings will go in the same time you put the gravel in or close
Correct.
to
I
it.
mean, give or take. The buffer plantings will be there this year when they construct this.
And what
so-
do those buffer plantings consist of?
There's evergreen, flowering trees and shrubs. Evergreen
there's-
trees, flowering trees and shrubs.
And are they staying after the tournament?
Correct. They will
Okay.
be there for,
And they're native plants?
yes, all the proposed trees are native. So the buffer at the front will help screen, even though the whole property falls away from St. David's Road. So as you're on St. David's Road or one of the houses across the street, you actually tend to look over this. But nonetheless, those plantings will help screen that area, the gravel lot. The plantings around the wetlands are there to fill in what are some missing spots in the existing vegetation, both as requested by the township engineer and then by one of the neighbors. So we're doing that. That's part of the trees that'll be restored.
And that entranceway, and I'm sorry, this is part of
Yes.
your presentation, but that entranceway, is that Millview right there?
Yes.
Okay,
And it
So-
lines right up with it across the street.
and I'm guessing you need that for the HOP permit?
That's
Or-
what the HOP permit is for.
Okay. With regards to the vegetation that's coming down along St. David's Road, how much is staying with regards to a buffer? Or is anything not staying
The
along St.
parts-
David's?
Anything where you see through to the aerial photo underneath remains. So if you look in the upper left where you see the trees.
Yep.
And it's not colored in bright green, those are trees that remain.
No, I understand that, but do you, like, what is the percentage that's staying as sort of a buffer? Do you have a
I
viewpoint?
don't
angle of
really
that or
know
anything?
percentage because the areas outside the disturbance that we didn't color on here, we didn't count those trees.
Okay. Do you have a rendering of what that looks like from that end? Did you guys do like a computer generated?
not.
Okay, all right. I'm asking obviously because there was one comment from the last meeting with regards to residents who travel up and down St. David's Road, right? That they don't want to, and it doesn't sound like this is going to be the situation because you're putting in some plantings, but I'm just curious of what the plantings are going to be between the area of disturbance and St. David's Road. And then also those individuals coming off of Millview, right? I'm going to make sure that they're not going to be looking at some sort of
Correct.
apocalyptic view.
So part of it is we are dropping about 10 feet down to the first
Hmm.
section of the parking lot. And then we drop down about another, I think it's 16 or 18 feet to the second tier. So it falls away. There is the existing vegetation you can see that's not brightly colored. And then where we're pointing the buffer on the top part of the plan. to put those evergreens and flowering trees in place now.
When the tournament is over, does that driveway get abandoned or is that going to
Let me
be
go
an
to the next
access?
page and I'll show you what
Okay.
everything that happened.
All right, sorry about that.
That's okay. No, it's a good question. Any question's a good one, but if you can go to the next page, please. So this is after the tournament is over, the gravel's all removed, so the gray is gone. The light green, that's pale green, that's gonna be replanted as meadow. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute. The dark green, there's about 1.5 acres at the top part of where this work is being done. That's gonna be reforested permanently and maintained to turn back into a forest. The other green areas throughout the club, which are colored in bright green, those are other areas because we cannot fit all the trees we're removing in the dark green areas up there. The reason some of it is being left as meadow is that the club is looking at various options of what they're going to do in the future. And we do not want to plant trees that are supposed to be replacement trees in an area that might be disturbed again. And so by leaving that area as meadow, we're not creating something fictitious where we plant a tree and then 5 years later, the tree might be removed. We want to plant the trees where they can be tended to, continue to grow and last for a long time. If you go to the last page, that'll help. This is what we kind of call the vendor area. It's the part of the club closest to the roundabout off St. David's. And this is just the Google Street View from there that shows kind of like what the restored meadow tends to look like. If you go out there today, it's actually been mowed down because the club mows it periodically, which helps control invasives and allow it to develop. This area has been gravel for previous tournaments. The club removes the gravel, turns it back into meadow, and it looks like this. So the areas that are not wooded will look like this over time. The areas where we're planting tree restoration will look like wooded areas. We do have as an engineer and at Chester Valley Engineers, it is a pleasure to get to work with the Aronimink Golf Club because they're there. They're not like a developer who comes in, wants just to make a profit and leaves. Might do a good job, might not. But even if they do a good job, they're not there tending the land for essentially forever. So Aronimink is very good at growing grass, turning things back into meadow, planting trees and tending to them. So I do feel very confident that where we show things being restored, that's what it's going to look like. That's kind of the main take on the plans. I can answer more questions about the stormwater or anything else in particular, or we can
The
get somebody else.
driveway, the driveway, is that driveway?
The driveway is going to be turned back into, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
turned back into meadow because we do have the thought that there is a chance it will be used again. So we don't want to plant trees there
Okay,
and then not have it as access.
but it's not going to be an access.
It's not going to be an
not
access. We've
okay,
applied, the permit that's from PennDOT is temporary.
okay,
It'll be renewed a couple times because PennDOT issues the permits for 1 year.
Yep.
But at the end of this, once it's restored, then the permit will be closed out and there won't be a driveway permit there.
thank you.
And even, can you just go back up to the last, I think the first plan? Perfect. Nope, sorry, the second one, that one right there. So even, can you point out where you said some of it's gonna be, in addition to the gravel, what was it, asphalt, you said, because of the
Yeah,
steep-
this
steep-
long
steep
narrow
areas?
piece in
Yep.
the middle.
Yep.
Is gonna be bituminous pavement just because it's relatively steep. And we don't want there to be an erosion
makes
or
sense.
maintenance issue while they're.
And you guys are taking that out as well as part of the
Correct, that's gonna
restoration?
be removed as well. I just didn't want to tell you it's gravel. That and the very first part of the driveway will be paved with
Understood.
bituminous as well, again, just for maintenance and to avoid
Yeah,
tracking
makes
gravel
sense.
out onto St. David's Road.
PennDOT, it's a you have to have that.
Yes, but
With
all the
HOP
impervious.
permit, you have to have that. It has to be a
Correct,
surface that
according
you
the
can drive
township
on.
ordinance specifies that, PennDOT likes to see it, and it
Yep.
just makes more sense for everybody. All the gray area, just to be clear, will be removed and replaced with either meadow or woods, trees, replacement trees when we're finished.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Kamen? The stormwater basins, what are you designing them to?
So we're designing the basins as if everything is permanent. There are reductions required in the township ordinance. For instance, we have to make the peak flow from a 2-year storm that would occur in the future, which is like 3.8 inches of rain, have the same outflow is a 1-year storm does today for the wooded site, which is like 1.5 inches of rain. So we have reductions built in to meet the township code. When we are done and we remove the gravel, we're not modifying the basin. So we'll actually continue to have the stormwater basins as if there was this large amount of impervious area. There's about 5 acres of gravel and paving. And the stormwater is designed that way. But when we're done, we're just going to leave the stormwater in place. It will continue to be maintained. It'll have an operations and maintenance agreement, just like other stormwater basins. And it will provide peak flow and volume control, even as the site grows in and turns into meadow and woods.
The reforesting, and this might not be a question for you, what are those 638 trees consisting of? Not necessarily species, I'm not really interested in that. I guess I'm asking, are we replacing, 417 mature trees, give or take 229
I have
mature
that
trees
info, but I am not the
with
expert
little
on it.
twigs,
Give
or
me
are
a
we
minute to
putting
find
in?
it. And unless John Goslin has a better idea of,
Just come to the podium. Yeah. So the question that I'm essentially just asking is, with those 229 trees that are healthy, that are coming out, I understand that there's 417 total, but just focusing just for conversation aspect, 229 healthy trees. Are we replacing those healthy mature trees with, not expecting a 50-foot tall tree, but are we putting in those little twigs? Like, what do we have there? Do we know yet?
We're gonna work with John on that. I think it's a minimum of 2.5-inch caliber. And all the trees will be native off the website. We
Okay.
have a recommendation on what trees to plant. So there'll be a variety of hardwoods and evergreens, depending on where they're at. Obviously, along roadsides and stuff like that, we're trying to create a buffer. There'll certainly be more evergreens, but it's certainly gonna be a wide variety of native plants, native trees.
Do we have because it is private property, but it is part of this waiver, the trees, do we have a way, because I know we're talking about doing, that they're talking about these trees in successions. Like, for example, we've had the Delaware County Christian School, they have trees that were part of their development plan, and their trees are dead, so they need to be replanted. Now, those we can see from Goshen Road, but on their property, we won't be able to see some of these trees. Is there a way, because I know it's for the wildlife and for the habitat, right? That's part of the tree and part of the stormwater management. Is there a way that, that we are updated, or that the arborist can go and check on these trees to make sure that, they put them in, but they didn't put the alligator bags on, and then they end up dying? I know again, it's private property. I don't want to,
I think it would be fair to ask for either to have Aronimink have a professional, maybe do an annual report for a certain period of time. This is how the trees are doing. I know Mr. Osbach, you could have the right to inspect, periodically as well. I'm sure you would agree to that.
Yeah, John, you want to speak to that?
Sure. Well, one thing is 630 whatever trees is one heck of an investment.
yeah, no, I know.
So that's one of the reasons why we asked to plant them over a 4-year period, just so we can really plant them and take care of them. To plant 636 trees, we're not capable to take care of that in one, to truly keep them watered and everything, fertilized, and get them to where they're mature enough that they can live on their own. So it's one heck of an investment. We were not going to buy a tree and just to buy a tree. So we're on site every day, and then obviously work with John Hosbach, and we also work with 3 other arborists or tree companies to maintain our existing trees, and obviously they're going to help us with these as well.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Goslin, if you can just
To kind of tie that in a bow, you have a period of time, there's going to be I think it's a 4-year implementation that was requested, and actually Mr. Osbach agreed with that because he agrees it just makes more sense from a tree perspective to do it that way. Is there a period after that we can agree for an annual report / inspection, but 4 years after that 4-year planning period?
Typical 5 years.
Fair enough, 5 years for an annual report with a spot inspection by Mr. Osbach to be coordinated through Aronimink. Okay.
And just to be clear for those watching online, that answer for the 5 years was from our township arborist. Mr. Goslin, that 4-year phase out, and if you don't know the answer to this, this is fine. I'm just asking. Those 638 trees, are they being scattered throughout I'm guessing they're being scattered throughout the course there?
Yeah, the one slide showed.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. We did.
Yeah, obviously, we're going to concentrate on St. David's Road, but the one slide shows.
Yeah, so the discussion we've had with John and with John Hansback, well, John Goslin, the club, is that we would get the initial reforestation in the 1.5 acres. That's the dark green in our area that we're disturbing. And then the others would be spread throughout the dark green areas around the club that we've highlighted on here. And potentially, again, we're picking areas where we know they will survive. The club can take care of them. They won't be in the way of something else.
Got it. Just a little bit of maybe professional advice moving forward. I'm colorblind, so I'm just gonna agree that whatever you're pointing at looks good because no one here is stopping this. So that just looks all the same to me. So maybe hash it out next time.
Yeah.
But it's just one little
And
caveat.
not to belabor this, but is there a schedule of which areas will be, okay,
Can you go to the podium?
John, get you the one.
I requested of Mr. Goslin a schedule that's going to denote not only the quantity of trees, the species, location for each calendar year leading up to 2028.
great, thank you. Perfect.
Any other questions for Mr. Kamen? Have anyone else, Mr. D'Amico?
No.
Okay, Mr. Goslin, not Mr. Goslin, Mr. Hausbach, do you want to add or provide any other color to anything else to what Mr. D'Amico said? Anything else from your report or from the arborist perspective? Yep.
Usually at the beginning, originally the course, and correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, performed what's called a fixed plot sampling. I'm not sure who conducted that sampling, but most times it's done within a 1/10 of an acre plot, which then is extrapolated out over the acre. I believe what the course did was went into an area, marked up some areas, found that there was 9 trees per sampling, okay, which then when you equate that to an acre, equivalent to 90 trees per acre, okay? And I believe there's 10 acres being condemned for the clearing, which then would equate to 900 trees. I think that's where it's coming from. That was the reason why I brought up, hey, I think we need a full inventory because I think those calculations were incorrect. We went out to the site, we picked one area, there were 9 trees in 1/10 of an acre plot, but it's not consistent throughout the entire stand. So that's why I asked for a full review and inventory, which then resulted in the new number of 414 trees. Out of that 414 trees, 273 trees, based on the plans, are non-ash. Out of that 273, 229 are viable trees. For that 44 trees, that equation are trees that are non-ash, but are either dead, dying, diseased, or invasive.
All right,
I just wanted to clarify those numbers.
So break it down to me again for the healthy.
Correct,
It's a healthy number.
414 total,
400 and, say again?
414 total.
Yep, okay. Being removed.
Correct.
Okay.
273 of them are non-ash, meaning they're oaks, maples, et cetera.
Mhm.
Out of that 273, 229 trees are viable, meaning they are healthy, live, and providing benefits at the current time. As per our ordinance, they are required to plant 638 trees based on our formula, which is 3-inch to 6-inch requires 1 tree, 7-inch to 12-inch requires 2 trees, 13-inch to 19-inch requires 3 trees, 20-inch to 29-inch requires 4 replacement trees, and 30-inch DVH or greater requires 6, which then would constitute a total mitigation compensatory replacement value of 638 trees.
Perfect. Okay. And the inventory that they did, I believe it was by Mr. Riggs. You reviewed that and have no objection to it?
Correct. So Mr. Sikora called me on Friday midday and said, hey, need to verify a few things. Can you get out there? Which I did.
And you have no problems with it?
I do not.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hausbach. Mr. D'Amico, if you have nothing else, I'll move it over to public comment unless you have any, you want to add anything now, or do you want to wait until public comment for any closing?
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Oh, perfect. So I will note that the board did receive some correspondence via email. But for any individuals who are residents or taxpayers, we'll hear from them first, understanding that this is also, this has garnered some regional attention. We will also let those who are not residents or taxpayers provide public comment. But if there is a non-resident or taxpayer who wishes to say something, we ask that if it's only new information, if you feel the urge to share something new, come on up and speak, but let's focus on residents and taxpayers first, either for or against this with regards to public comment. And when you come to the podium, sir, just state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bill Barry. I live on 207 Carriage Lane. And I'm resident of the township for 35 years. I also happen to be a member of Aronimink for the past 30 years, past 10 years, part of the volunteer governance team. You all know something.
You don't do it for the pension?
No, not for the pension. We're, the club's 129 years old. We've been at St. David's Road for 100 years. Currently, we have two big events going on. We have a $35 million capital improvement plan, which, as Mr. D'Amico said, we've been before planning and the board twice for approval, phase 1 and phase 2. And we also have the PGA Championship, and I won't repeat all that. It's been well put by the folks here. We've been closely working with the township for the last 3 years, the fire marshal, code enforcement, solicitor, the township engineer, planning commission, the board of supervisors. And we understand that things have to be done properly. That's who we are, and you see to it from your seats. I would just like to speak on behalf of Aronimink in this application and let you know that we are an environmental focused club. We are a member of the Audubon Society, and I didn't even know about this until the last meeting. We have a cavity nester program. We have 35 bird boxes, and this is a pretty cool calendar that our Greens department put together. That takes a look at all the birds that are on our golf course. So we're very sensitive to them. We've done everything and more, we feel, in terms of stormwater, tree replacement, the location of the media compound. We didn't have another choice. When we first started this process, when we signed the contract in 2017, we looked at everything, and unfortunately, we, at 300 acres, we're a small site for this global event. I don't know whether it's been mentioned tonight, but 5% of our 300 acres, we have impervious coverage. We've met with the neighbors. We're good neighbors. We adhere to the rules. We haven't gotten any breaks from the township. We don't expect any breaks from the township. But we have a good working relationship with the township because we've been part of the community for so long. Thank you for looking hopefully favorably at our application.
Thank you very much. Any other residents or taxpayers, public comment?
Good evening. Hi, I'm Sheila O'Sullivan-Feeney. I'm the chair of the EAC. You've got our EAC review of this project.
Sorry, real quick. Can you just give us your address?
120 Beechwood Road, Newtown Square, PA 19073. And hopefully for tonight's convenience, it might be helpful if we only let the people who haven't spoken at our December meeting. Otherwise, we'll be here till 2 or 3 in the morning. But anyway.
I'll run the meeting, Mrs. O'Sullivan-Feeney.
No worries.
Continue anyway.
With our EAC land development, you did receive that form and we dug deep into the plan. And our job is to help you go through these plans, because to go into the depth and the breadth of a plan is exhausting. Let's go back to the facts. And I'm getting all this information out because my inbox was inundated with conservation groups today, wondering what are we doing? I want to know it's really important because our supervisors, all of you, all of our supervisors in our township, you've been to our tree planting, you've been to our stream cleanups, you've picked up trash, you've done all of these things. So we know that you care about our community and we appreciate that. You've seen what the township has done with the EAC shade tree. All of us has been working toward the goal of our 1,000 trees for our an S4 plate compliance. So we know that you care and we've been there in the trenches with you. So that's why we were greatly disappointed that Arana Mick is the one that came with this plan and chose to submit a plan to destroy over 10 acres and all the trees to host a PGA tournament. We've offered to discuss alternatives with them and look for other ways to accomplish their goal, and we want to support them. But this is a huge event, and we've spoken with other communities who have had the US Open, and they have not had this destruction to this level. We also want to know that we look forward to ways to accomplish their event without destruction of our environment. We've heard from so many township residents. We've heard from other environmental groups, as I mentioned, in this area, that not only that we're outraged and disappointed in Arana Mick's decision, we could think of them as outsiders, because how dare they tell us what to do in Newtown Township? These are outside groups, but in fact, we're all connected. Every decision we make is impacting them. Radnor, the conservatory, EAC, those groups are going to be receiving these waters. So of course, although they are not township residents, they are impacted by this decision. More importantly, we have to remember that the decision makers at Arana Mick are not all township residents. They come from different townships and different counties. So the leadership team, and although the management team who does everything, John Goslin, Julie Morse, they do incredible work and we appreciate it. The leadership team are not township residents. So they're making decisions that are going to life alter our township. And that is a concern. We also want to make a mention that with this, because of Swamp Hollow, which is part of our core habitat, will be greatly impacted. And that's at the bottom of Sawmill Road. So we're going to see not only our township residents, but all of DCVA, which is the Darley Creek. 500,000 people are impacted by Darby Creek Valley Association. That's 32 different municipalities, and we are the ones upstream. So although we don't have to do it, we're asking Arana Mick to do more. We asked them to go through the land development process, and they will probably get approved, but we're asking you not to grant the waiver. And the reason being is this waiver will protect them from the consequences of their decision. And we'd like them to if they're going to take this action, that we respect Newtown Township taxpayers for their decision. We also asked them to consider an independent review. This decision on their part, and if you looked at it, they mentioned this in the Planning Commission, they have a master plan, and this is eventually going to be 9 additional holes. They brought forth this information at the Planning Commission. We weren't aware of it, and they were the ones who brought that to light, and that is concerned. So we know what there is the plans. We're also asking Arana Mick not merely to engineer the storm for a 2-year water storm. We're experiencing 100-year stormwater events every 5 years. So we're asking them, even though they're not required to, and our engineer is phenomenal and our arborists are phenomenal, to do more and engineer to a 100-year storm. We're also asking them, instead of the 50-foot riparian buffer, which they had protected because they submitted their plans, we're asking them to step up and provide a 100-foot riparian buffer. We also went back and forth with John about these trees the goalpost is slightly changed on that. We're looking now that there's a 3-inch caliber tree, that the ones that you were mentioned, and that's roughly a 15 to 16-foot tree. So now we're only going to count the trees of 3-inch caliber or more. So that's why the number has greatly been reduced. However, according to the U.S. Department of Forestry, an old growth forest, which is especially ones that were decimated by emerald ash borer disease, can have 100 to 200 trees, but that's including saplings. So of course, the new count is slower, and we accept that, and arborist is phenomenal, but that's not realistic of what the environment is. They're not only just killing off the trees, they're grubbing the land. That means total destruction. So everything below 15 to 16 feet is going to be destroyed. So when we're looking at these things, we ask the Aronimink, since our taxpayers are going to bear the burden of this decision, because we already are paying for it. Look at December when you had to approve the culvert on Paper Mill. And that sediment that was coming from that area, it's going to cost our taxpayers $11,000 to $18,000 to deal with that sediment. Where is that sediment coming from? Was it from the construction that was going on at Paper Mill? Or is it from the active permit that Aronimink is doing right now? So we're asking Aronimink to consider something very bold. And I know this is a lot, but we're asking them to replace these trees with 3,250 trees. That's an astronomical amount of money, right? However, we're saying that they can look to possibly put 2,000 on site, and John Husback can give us from information if that's not possible. The balance of that, we're asking them to give them away as township tree, as our tree giveaway program, and they would pay for them. The reason being is that whole area has been decimated, Paper Mill, and we've spoken to residents that are on Paper Mill, and if you've ever gone out to that road during a storm, I'm telling you, it's concerning. So we're asking that we share these trees out throughout the area of Newtown Township, so we take responsibility to help reduce and mitigate stormwater. We're also asking, and this is really important, because we're coming in to Darby Creek right there at Sawmill, Newtown touches Darby Creek again when we come down to Fox's Run. So we're asking for Aronimink, and again, all we can do is ask. We can't demand anything. We're asking them to plant and pay for the installation of 250 trees in the lower St. Albans area. The reason being is that's along Fox's Run, and we want to do everything we can to help mitigate the stormwater that's contributing off of Fox's Run because of the additional load that will be coming from Aronimink. So although there's a lot, you know, if you put everything aside, if you don't care about, and I thought it was ironic that every Aronimink member got up and talked about the trees and the birds and the environment and the air and all things. If you put everything aside, if you don't care about the trees, if you don't care about the environment, you don't care about the oxygen produced by these trees, at the end of the day, this is going to cost Newtown Township residents money. And the waiver is provided if there's an undue hardship for Aronimink to get a waiver, or if indeed it's, as long as it's not a compromise to our community, if they do not meet the requirements of a waiver. So we're asking you, we know that they put you in this terrible position, and it's unfortunate because all of you care about our environment, but please don't give them a waiver so that they're held responsible for their decisions going forward. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. I am Dr. Catherine Goddard. I'm a non-resident.
Oh,
So
can I, hold on. Let's do the residents and taxpayers first, as I said, and then we'll do the non-residents afterwards. So any other residents, sorry, doctor, I thought that I was clear on that. Any other residents or taxpayers?
Hi, my name is Bob Bowman, 102 Millview Lane. You brought Millview Lane up earlier, that's why I'm standing here. I live right across the street from Aronimink, a member of Aronimink and taxpayer, and I'm on the executive committee of Aronimik's governance. So check off a lot of boxes here. My biggest concern about this whole project has always been stormwater runoff, and I'm very, very happy with what Aronimik's doing for that, for the neighborhood. By leaving those things out for the long term, that's going to absolutely improve what has been, over the 22 years I've lived there, a concern. So thank you for your time.
Any other residents or taxpayers?
Good evening. My name is Jim Hagany, and I am a resident of 6 Boulder Creek Lane, along with my wife Eileen.
Jim, real quick, can you spell your last name?
Sure, Hagany, Hageney.
Thank you.
I live adjacent to the golf course, and I'm also a 20-year member of Aronimink. I know the site well. I drive by it quite often on my way to work. I know that there are a number of trees on the property that we're talking about, or the section of the property we're talking about. There's also a lot of fill trees that are on the ground there. I think AGC has always been, their environmental practices have always been superior, and I know that they will treat this opportunity to make the property, return it to its full complement of what it should be. The work carried out, obviously, Aronimink does everything in the highest standards possible. No doubt that that will be true. the planting management of trees and all aspects of the green will be carried through. To come up and state my approval of moving forward with the program.
Thank you very much. Any other residents or taxpayers?
I'm David Pensky. I live at 419 Merlin Road. I've been a member, resident of the township for 22 years. I've also been a member of Aronimink Golf Club for 57 years. And past executive of the club, both in the executive side and on the green side. And over the years, we have been the highest standard of steward to the environment, to the ecological portions of the club, to be sure that the wildlife, the trees, and the growth of everything in the club for the township has been appropriately taken care of. I think this is a great opportunity for not only Aronimink, but for Newtown Township to display the beauty of our area. And I think with what the Aronimink has agreed to do in the replacement of the trees and the care of the property, I think that it should be favorably looked at, and I hope that you would get all the proper consideration. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Can you give me your address again, please?
419 Merlin.
Arlen, thank you.
Any other residents or taxpayers?
I'm Tom Rushi. I'm a resident of the township. I live at 11 Paper Mill Road, which is right around the corner from the site under consideration here. So I drive by it literally every day.
Mr. Rushi, can you just spell your last name for us?
Reusche.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm very familiar with the site. I've lived on Paper Mill Road for 22 years, 21 years, been a member of Aronimink Golf Club for 22 years. And I know the standard of care that we bring to every environmental impact project that we do on the site. We do it with standard of care and the highest level of interest for the environment, and very proud of the fact that Aronimink Golf Club has been recognized by the Audubon Society for our stewardship of the environment. And I think that, in my opinion, the plan that has been engineered out to deal with stormwater runoff and the retention ponds that will remain there and the compensatory trees that exceed 600 will leave the site in a better condition than it is right now. As Jim Haggerty mentioned earlier, when you drive by the site, there's a lot of fallen trees down there. And with the measures that are going to be put in place and 600 plus trees that are going in to replace it, I think it's a great plan for the club and the community, and I fully support it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment from residents and taxpayers?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Brian McNeil, MC capital N-E-I-L-L. I reside at 104 Millview Lane, directly across the street from the club. I have resided there for 24 years as well. I have been a member of Aronimink for 22 years. And like Mr. Bowman, I serve on the executive committee. I'm the vice president of the club. If there's one thing that Aronimink is committed to, it's excellence. And it's excellence in everything that we do. It's part of our vision statement. It's part of how we run the club and how we run our operations. And I couldn't be more proud of the plans that we have in hosting the PGA. When we don't know something, we seek experts. We seek experts in the community. We seek experts in specific fields that bring that to the decision makers at the club. So I am very confident that the plans put forward that have been fully approved and vetted by the governance at the club have been done so with outstanding information. And this plan has my full support, and we appreciate your support as well.
Thank you. Any other public comment from residents and or taxpayers? Last call for public comment from residents or taxpayers. All right, any non-resident or taxpayer?
Good evening. I'm Dr. Catherine Goddard. I am a non-resident. I live in Berwyn, and I'm the third vice president of the Darby Creek Valley Association.
And doctor, real quick, K-A-T-H-R-Y-N, K-A-T.
Yes.
Okay, and G-O-D-D-A-R-D?
Yes. and a graduate of Marple Newtown.
I knew I liked you for a reason. There you go.
We have a number of members of the Darby Creek Valley Association in this township, but I will speak only to the points that have not yet been made as requested. I have a copy of the Darby Creek Valley Association letter, if I may give copies to you, or if you, I know we emailed it to you.
The board does have copies of it.
Wonderful, thank you. One point I would like to make is that golf courses cannot be considered open space as equivalent to ecosystems because they do not provide the habitat or the same water absorption properties as a forest or a meadow. Secondly, I'd like to point out that dead and dying trees provide homes for birds and other animals, particularly for owls, bluebirds, and purple martins, which are declining in southeastern Pennsylvania. I'd also like to point out that the deer that will need to leave this area will move to adjacent properties when the forest is cut. And I'd like to emphasize that the effect of stormwater and erosion on the environmental justice communities downstream of this township will be greatly affected by the stormwater. And I would encourage Newtown Township to be at the vanguard of caring about our downstream neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Goddard. Any other non-resident who wishes to provide public comment? Okay, Mr. Hausbach, do you want to, I'm sorry, not Mr. Hausbach, I keep doing that. Mr. D'Amico, do you want to address any of that public comment? Okay.
I actually have a question about the fact that after this is all finished and that it's going to be part, I guess I guess the plan is to open this part up as part of the golf course. Is that correct? Is that one of the thoughts of the future?
So, the area that's in question there and the area then going down the screen there behind the driving range, if you see where I'm pointing. That's all part of the Aronimink property. You can see the property line there. So the club has identified as a long range plan the need for additional golf holes. Same number of members that there's been at Aronimink, 325 bondholders or active members of the club, but their spouses, their children are more and more active in the game. So the game of golf is getting popular, and Aronimink is trying to encourage that and support their membership. So that area, when Donald Ross originally laid out this property, it was 27 golf holes. So, and that includes now part of the tennis center, part of the entranceway, which was a golf hole, and then the area around, including the driving range. That constituted the additional 9 holes. Those 9 holes were never built. The additional 18 holes were built. The 9 holes were never built. So there is an opportunity that the club has never seized upon, but is now sort of looking at as a possibility. There's no immediate plan for that. But in the future, if there were additional golf holes, they would include that area there that's in the light green, right? So that's the idea behind replacing the trees with meadow in the light green area as opposed to the dark green area along St. David's Road. That can be reforested without any concern of the club that would then be part of the additional golf holes. But there's no immediate plan to do it.
That has nothing to do with this.
No,
Nothing to do with this. There's no.
It's maybe gonna happen, maybe
Right,
not.
well,
but
that's,
it's future.
I had a follow-up question to Mr. Sikora. So if these 9 holes do get built, do they come back in the same situation as this, as it's really not land development because they're not buildings, they're not permanent structures?
I believe that it's a non-conforming use, well, I don't know if it's here by conditional use or if it's a non-conforming use, because it could be permitted either way, because private clubs are permitted in residential areas. But either way, I think if you're going to expand a non-conforming use or expand a conditional use under our code, you have to come in for special exception approval. So there would be a zoning aspect to it, and then an ENS Unless they're going to build structures, it wouldn't be land development
Mhm.
per se, but there would be a review process.
Because it would change the face of the meadow then, that they're, I'm thinking of the stormwater management.
Well, I'd say a couple things. One is, there's not enough room for 9 golf holes.
Okay.
It's what's left there because of the golf driving range and because of the tennis
Right.
center and the other areas. So this would be a short course of some type.
But it would change
but-
it would change the land.
Yes,
It
but
would not be a meadow, it would not be a natural,
But you don't even
stormwater.
have designs for this. You have no idea what this is gonna look like. This is just a future plan, maybe. So you can't even talk about what this is gonna look like right now because
Right.
it's future.
It's been identified as a need.
Maybe area.
A need of the club, just
Okay.
like 15 years ago, there was a need identified that we have a indoor golf learning center. 15 years later, 13 years later, we put that on a plan and presented it to the township. So we hope it will happen someday. I couldn't possibly tell you when that might be. And when that would occur, just like this 10 acres here, there's been just some discussion about this idea of what's the waiver of land development. We have gone through a full land development process. We have, how many pages are in your land development plan set, Neil? 18, 20? 18-page plan set. This is much more than a grading plan. It has been reviewed by your township arborist, by your township engineer on a couple of occasions, by your township zoning officer, by your township fire marshal, by your EAC, et cetera. So all we're really doing tonight, by asking for a waiver, the waiver is conditioned on complying with all of the township consulting comments. So it's a distinction without a difference. All we're not doing essentially is recording the plan with the Delaware County Recorder of Deeds because the gravel area is temporary.
And then
if we-
like I said before, like the structures that are going to be there for 4 days. If this was formal land development, we'd have to have bushes planted in front of those structures to comply with the land development ordinance. It's just, then they'd have to get ripped out. It just doesn't.
Which is why it's not being recorded. There's nothing, if this is approved, there's nothing.
The only thing
left
that's
there.
going to be recorded is the stormwater management.
Stormwater management best practice, that operation and maintenance agreement will be
Yes,
recorded.
that gets recorded. Also.
Which
the
is
riparian
required
buffer.
because
Yeah.
we need an NPDS permit from the County Conservation District. And in order to get that permit, we need a stormwater O&M.
Also, they're going to delineate by description the riparian buffer and.
Yep.
And I think that what Supervisor Roberts Li was saying was that because it was addressed in public comment with regards to something that was raised in the planning commission, is that anything else like this, and when I say like this, meaning any application that you guys plan to do with your property still comes to the township for review, is the point that I believe that Supervisor Roberts Li was making.
Yep.
Which I
Yes.
think we all kind of got to that in a roundabout way, whether it's a future plan or not is the point I believe that you were trying to make. I also think that the point that you made should be stressed again is that while this is considered a waiver of land development by any stretch of the imagination, it has not been theoretically a waiver. It has been a full land development review. You did say you were before the planning commission here in Newtown Township and you received a favorable vote. Is that accurate?
That is.
Okay, and you also were before the county planning commission, and is it accurate that they voted for a recommendation as well?
Yes, they recommended approval.
Anything else, Mr. D'Amico? Oh, actually, I do have 2 last questions. The start date, when do you plan, if this is approved, to start this?
The start date is just as soon as possible. We're already behind schedule, as I mentioned, in anticipation of needing to start in a hurry. Whereas a normal applicant might wait until they got their approval from the township to submit for an NPDES permit. Chester Valley Engineers in Aronimink made that application a month ago or more, and we're doing what we can to try to expedite that process.
And that just for anyone who is usually like a 6-month process anyway, right? Give or
Yeah.
take. Yeah.
But
so-
we're hoping we can, this has been identified as a priority project by the
Yep.
Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So we're hoping we can, again, there won't be any corners cut, but we're going to try to stay on top of the pile of the County Conservation District and maybe get a permit in 3 months or so. But the answer to your question is just as soon as we can. Hopefully that'll be the spring.
And a priority project by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, meaning?
Meaning they identify projects that have a significant economic impact on the Commonwealth, and the governor's office tries to help coordinate and expedite permits, again, without cutting any corners, just trying to prioritize review. So we're hoping that helps, knock on wood. But yes, the NPDES permit for the swimming pool and the Belmont racket court took 6 or 7 months.
And I just want to just ask this question. I know that Mr. Barry mentioned it, and I believe you touched on it as well in your opening statement. You guys did evaluate every sort of possible measure to keep the idea of not removing these trees. It's just you guys are constrained more than, I believe you said, any other PGA event, given just the size of this club. Is that accurate?
That is, yep. We're 600 acres would be typical venue site for a PGA championship. US Open might have, 30, they would go to 36 hole golf courses, so they can use an entire golf course to stage, have driving ranges. That's what Marion did when they held the US Open in 2013. And they still needed to use Haverford College for some of their off-site support.
Got it.
So, yes.
And jumping back to the Commonwealth priority, is it safe to say or fair to say, because it has been designated as a Commonwealth priority, the governor's office is in support of this overall tournament?
Yeah.
And what's necessary for it?
Absolutely. This is going to have, we didn't get into it, but it's going to have a major impact on, the economy of Newtown Township, Newtown Square area. There's going to be a lot of people moving into the area, hotels, restaurants, et cetera. This place is going to be buzzing.
Okay. I have no further questions. So any other questions from the board? All right, since this presentation is done, we will move down to 19.5 and see if there is a motion to approve Resolution 2025-05 Land Development Waiver Approval for Aronimink associated with the Broadcast Center.
Make a motion. To resolution 2025.05, waiver formal land development requirements for temporary structures supporting facilities related to the 2026 PGA Golf Championship at Aronimink. Now there be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township, number 1, Aronimink requests a waiver for land development process and approvals are hereby. Do we need to vote on this first then? Granted with the following conditions. Aronimink shall continue to coordinate the township engineer and make technical and field adjustments in compliance with the township engineer and recommendations and direction. 3, Aronimink may proceed with the requested temporary permanent restoration improvements in strict compliance with the aforementioned plans and tree surveys, subject only to the conditions listed below and the recommend set forth in the aforementioned township engineer review letter, Chester Valley engineer response letter, the township fire marshal review letters, and the above additional comments from the township engineer set forth above. 4, stormwater systems and outfalls will be evaluated of the erosions at the time of conversions for the temporary permanent conditions, and any restoration will be completed as needed. 5, any temporary ENS matting or similar stabilizations materials may be organic material and not plastic. 6, Aronimink tree replacement proposal 4-year replacement schedule is approved, subject to coordination with the township arborist. 5-year, Rich, we have the 5-year, 5-year, can't read your writing, that's a shame. Following, and warranty period for the Aronimink and our arborist. 7, as recommended by the EAC, Aronimink shall conduct daily check of ENS measures from the inception of the earth moving through restoration under supervision of Aronimink, the groundskeeper. 8, Aronimink shall obtain approval of the soil erosion sediment control plan, NPDES permit from the Conservation District with the Coppice Township engineer prior to the commencement of this project. 9, Aronimink will enter developers' financial security and stormwater operations and maintenance agreements with the Township Fair and the Township Solicitor. Only the stormwater operations and maintenance agreement need to be filed. The Township Manager is authorized to execute agreements when approved by the Township Solicitor and Engineer.
10, Aronimink shall pay the requisite amount into the township stormwater management fund and for future inspections. 11, a legal description shall be prepared for the riparian buffer and the restrictions will be recorded. 12, payment for all outstanding fees, deposits, costs understood by the township by Aronimink shall be made prior to the commencement of the project. 13, Aronimink shall comply in all respects and all applicable township codes, ordinance, and regulations except waived herein, as well as the applicable county, state, federal regulations, and developer must obtain applicable township, state, county, and federal permits, approval, and waivers. Resolved this 6th day, January 2025, at a public meeting of the public, Board of Supervisors. That is my motion.
Is there a second? Actually, your microphone is off. Can you repeat it again?
It was on. Green light. I made sure that was on.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. You're done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Yep.
Have a great night.
Okay, section 18, new business, 18.1. Can I get a motion approving the establishment of a holding tank agreement with Aronimink that is associated with the 2026 PGA tournament contingent on the approval of the township? So actually, I guess I'll take a break while everyone. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess. All right. Section 18, new business 18.1. Can I consider approving, can I get a motion to consider approving the establishment of a holding tank agreement with Aronimink that is associated with the 2026 PGA tournament contingent on the approval of the township solicitors, engineer, and manager?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. 18.2, can I get a motion approving the 2025-2026 holiday schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. 18.3, can I get a motion approving the 2025-2026 board and commissions meeting schedules as well as the advertisement of the schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 18.4, can I get a motion approving all third-party fee schedules?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Section 19, resolutions of legislation and action. 19.1. Can we get a motion approving resolution 2025-01, township manager's compensation? Supervisor Roberts Lightcap.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2025-01, resolution of the Township of Newtown and the County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, hereby states compensation of the township manager / secretary / treasurer. Whereas Article 13, Section 1301, subsection B of the Second Class Township Code of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania states that the compensation of the township manager / secretary / treasurer shall be set by resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the annual compensation of the township manager, secretary, treasurer shall be $177,726.30, effective as of January 6, 2025, to be paid in the same manner as other township employees unless authorized by the Board of Supervisors at its discretion. In addition, the township will make contribution of $3,000 to the township manager's township retirement plan account. Retirement plan account. Resolved the 6th day of January 2025 of the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown. And that's my motion.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there a second? I'll second the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Just would like to thank you as a board.
And Mr. Nease, we want to thank you for your service to the community. Moving down to 19.2, consider approving resolution 2025-02, bank depository. Supervisor San Francisco.
Resolution 2025-02, resolution of Township Newtown and the County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Bank Depositories. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, desires to safely increase the investment potential of its monies by investing from time to time in collateral and federally insured obligations with commercial banks or savings institutions chartered by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or the United States. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and hereby resolve the authority said supervisors that 1, the proper officers of the Township of Newtown may execute such resolutions and documents necessary to establish and maintain federally insured and collateralized accounts with commercial banks or savings institutions chartered by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or the United States. 2, the proper officers of the township shall be authorized to perform whatever other acts that shall be necessary under the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or the United States to establish and maintain such accounts as shall have been aforesaid described. 3, in the sense of the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown and the proper officers of the township shall be charged with choosing the appropriate federal insured collateral obligations with commercial banking or savings institution chartered by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, United States, and the proper officers shall seek to obtain the highest possible return consistent with the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania controlling second-class townships. Resolved this 6th day of January 80, 2025 by the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown. That is my resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. 19.3, consider approving resolution 2025-03, bank signatures. Resolution 2025-03, signature resolution. Whereas the Township of Newtown Board of Supervisors has resolved to use TD Bank and Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust as depositories and desires to designate who is authorized to sign on behalf of the township. Now therefore be it resolved that the financial institution named above at any or more of its offices or branches be and it hereby is designated as a financial institution and institution of and depository for the funds of this governmental entity, which may be withdrawn on checks, drafts, advices of debt, notes, or other orders for the payment of monies, including electronic orders, bearing the signature of or as otherwise authorized jointly by any two of the following officers, employees, or agents of the government of this governmental entity, agents who are listed below: Leonard B. Altieri, the third board chairman; Christina Roberts Lightcap, supervisor; Paul San Francisco, supervisor; Stephen M. Nease, township manager / secretary; George Sharretts, director of public works. Further resolve, the agents whose names appear are hereby authorized to open and maintain a deposit account or accounts of the governmental entity with the financial institution, subject to the terms and conditions of the business depository agreement, the depository account agreement, as it may be amended from time to time, the account agreement. Further resolve that the financial institution is hereby directed to accept and pay without further inquiry any item or payment order drawn against any of the governmental entity's accounts with the financial institution bearing the signature of or as otherwise authorized by any such agents, even though drawn or endorsed to the order of any agent signing or tendered by such agent for cashing or in payment of the individual obligation of such agent or for deposit to the agent's personal account, and the financial institution shall not be required to be under any obligation to inquire as to the circumstances of the issue or use of any item signed or payment order authorized in accordance with the resolutions contained herein, or the application or disposition of such item or payment order, or the proceeds of the item or payment order. Further resolved that any one of such agents is authorized to endorse all checks, draft notes, and other items payable to or owned by this governmental entity for deposit with the financial institution or for collection or discount by the financial institution, and to accept drafts and other items payable at the financial institution. Further resolved that the above named agents are authorized and empowered to execute such other agreements, including but not limited to special depository agreements and arrangements regarding the manner, conditions, or purposes for which funds, checks, or items of the governmental entity may be deposited, collected, or withdrawn, and to perform such other acts as they deemed reasonably necessary to carry out the provisions of these resolutions. Further resolved that the authority hereby conferred upon the above named agents shall be and remains in full force and effect until written notice of the revocation thereof shall have been delivered to and received by the financial institution at the location where an account of the governmental entity is maintained, and financial institution has had a reasonable period of time to act upon such notice. Resolved the 6th day of January 2025 at a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Supervisors, and that's my motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. .4, consider approving resolution 2025-04, adopting the Township Emergency Operation Plan. Resolution 2025-04, Emergency Operations Plan, whereas Section 7503 of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Services Code 35 PACS Section 7101 XSEC, maintains that Newtown Township prepare, maintain, and keep current an emergency operations plan for the prevention and minimization of injury and damage caused by a major emergency or disaster within this township. And whereas in response to the mandate stated above, Newtown Township has prepared an emergency operations plan to provide prompt and effective emergency response procedures to be followed in the event of a major emergency or disaster. And whereas Newtown Township has also prepared an emergency operation plan in order to reduce the potential effects of a major emergency or disaster and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of this township. Now therefore be it resolved, we, the undersigned supervisors of Newtown Township, do hereby approve and adopt the state endorsed emergency preparedness plan as the foundation of the Newtown Township plan, with the understanding that the appendices and annexes will be kept to date by the emergency manager coordinator and placed into immediate effect into the emergency operations plan of Newtown Township. This plan shall be reviewed every 2 years to make certain that it conforms to the requirements of the Delaware County Emergency Operations Guideline, adopted the 6th day of January 2025.
Second.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Li. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? feel like I'm the guy at the end of a radio commercial. Terms and conditions may apply. Section 20, board comment. Is there any board comment? Section 21, is there any public comment? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.